Hello everyone and welcome to... Today we're gonna talk about a game called False Positive Paradox, which I played about a year ago, and I think it is one of the most interesting games I've ever played because it involves so many complicated concepts like paradoxes, memories, and math, and it does it all so seamlessly that it is a crazy experience playing it. This game was made by my favorite developer at the moment, Wow Game is False, who only has 6 games out at the moment. This is the 5th one, and I've covered I think the 3rd or 4th one previously. It's called Pleonexia, and it's in my video called The Darkest Fishing Horror Game. In False Positive Paradox, you play as a lone astronaut sent to explore a planet for the first time, as in the planet has never been explored before. And you have to go there, drive around its oceans, and dive in there to collect metals. Which doesn't sound that interesting, but just wait for it. It's more complicated than it seems. And it's one of those kind of stories where you go to the end and then you think, did what I see really actually happen? Or was it all my imagination? Who knows? Anyways, let's just dive right into it. False Positive Paradox starts with a boot up screen for something called Portal Emulator, which seems to be a kind of overarching story for Wow Game is False's games, the developer, but it doesn't really have to do with the story of this game, so you can just ignore that. After that, there's this really hype title screen that plays. We start in a dark room with a hologram of a blue man seated in front of us. From him, we find out that our name is Decker, and this man tells us that someone said we've been acting strange since our last mission. He asks us to relay everything that happened during that last mission, and it's interesting because this game takes place through our memories of us recalling what happened, so we can't really be sure whether it's reliable or not. But before we explain what happened, we have the option to take a short test. This test has 2 questions. Each of these questions introduces a concept that will be very important if you want to understand what happens in the story later on. In the first question, a military is trying to decide which section of their planes should they add armor to. Basically, their planes keep getting shot down and they only have enough armor to armor one section of each plane. So we have 4 sections to choose from, X, Y, Z, and M, and every time a plane returns, they count the average number of bullet holes per square foot in each section. So X has 1.11, Y has 1.73, and blah blah blah. Basically, the higher this number is, the more damage that section usually has. If you have an ounce of common sense, you would probably say that if there's more damage, you should probably armor that section. But you're wrong. Blue Man explains that, yes, section M has the most damage, but it's actually more important to armor the section with the least damage. Consider this. Do all planes return for data collection? What sort of planes don't return? Our data is biased because it doesn't include planes that crash. So actually, the section of the plane with the least damage should be armored, because if a plane was shot there, it was also least likely to return for data collection. And that's why of all the planes that return, this section usually has the least damage, because it can't be shot there if it were to return. Now this is a good example to explain something called survivorship bias. And this is when incorrect conclusions are made because of data that only includes survivors of some kind of selection process, such as war. Another common example that people will often cite is that all baby carrots are shaped like little sausages. Because it's true, if you go to any market and you look for baby carrots, they're all shaped like little sausages. But you're not focusing on the little baby carrots that aren't shaped like little sausages, that aren't sold because they are picked out by farmers or corporate higher-ups because they're too ugly. Now, in the second question, there is a tunnel where 1 out of every 1,000 people that pass through it die. So a device is created to predict whether you will survive or die if you pass through this tunnel. This device is correct 99% of the time. So if you are about to go through the tunnel and the device says that you will die, what's the probability of you actually dying? Now again, if you have a brain that's like this size or slightly bigger, you will probably say that since the device is correct 99% of the time, you have a 99% chance of dying. But you're wrong. Again. But it's very hard to explain why. Hold up. So, we know that every 1 out of 1,000 people that go into the tunnel will die. So, let's just take our whole sample size of people as 1,000. Let's split our 1,000 people into 10 groups of 100. We have one person that will actually die, so let's put this guy somewhere in our 10th group. For our 9 other groups, these groups contain only survivors. Each of these 10 groups will contain one incorrect prediction because we know that the device predicts accurately 99% of the time. So that means every 1 out of 100 people will receive an incorrect prediction. So when our device makes its incorrect prediction for each of these 9 groups, we know that it will wrongly tell a survivor that they will die. And when it comes to our 10th group, there is a 99% chance that it will also tell a survivor that they will die. So you can see that when you're about to pass through the tunnel and the device says that you will die, you're probably not gonna die. Which means that when the device spits out a death reading, its accuracy is way lower than 99%. This is a great example of the false positive paradox, which is what happens when there are more false positives than true positives. Even though a device's accuracy may be very high, because of how rare true positives are, it is more likely to have a false positive than a true positive. This concept is going to show up later because that's literally the name of the game. Okay, cool, let's get back to the game. The real game begins when our flashback to our previous mission begins. We start on a spaceship traveling to a planet called AL115D, which has never been explored before. Before landing, we can press tab to review our mission journal. It reveals that our job is to recover aluminum from the ocean floor by finding metal structures on the planet and scanning them for the presence of aluminum shards. We also get a description of what the environment is like on the planet. Apparently, the atmosphere of the planet is full of acid, and if we didn't have a suit, we would melt on the spot. The planet is also apparently full of these pure aluminum giant structures, and an interesting thing that happens is that since aluminum is toxic to bacteria, it creates safe sterile zones around these metal structures. We are instructed only to dive in these sterile zones created to minimize contamination with bacteria. Once we get close enough to the planet, the shutter over our window closes, and we are left in the dark. Upon landing, we can explore the ship. Strangely, there are many empty seats on the ship, even though we are the only person aboard. On one of the seats, there is a note that contains a strange poem, I guess. This poem reads, "The Pythagorean letter two-way spread shows the two paths in which man's life is led. The right-hand track to sacred virtue tends, though steep and rough at first, in rest it ends. The other broad and smooth, but from its crown, on rocks the traveler is tumbled down. He who to virtue by harsh toils aspires, subduing pains, worth and renown acquires, but who seeks slothful luxury and flies, the labor of great acts dishonored dies." I don't know what this means, but if I were to guess, I would say a triangle is probably involved. We can then exit our ship and board our tiny little boat, which has a control deck in the front and a medical storage area in the back. Far from a magical Disney cruise. Driving it onto the planet's surface, we find that it's just an endless ocean with an orange sky and acid rain. There's a monitor on our left, which has a Google Maps of nearby metal structures. To scan these metal structures for the presence of aluminum shards, all we have to do is steer our boat close enough for our scanner to start scanning. It's worth noting that our scanner is 90% accurate. This may be important later. Jump scare. Pretty soon we get an update from our mission journal, which has two new sections, temperature and signature. Temperature tells us that as the planet's sun sets, the temperature decreases, and at around 5 degrees Celsius, the acid rain will turn into acid icicles that are basically bullets from the sky. Signature tells us that the monitor on our right has different modes to measure our distance to the nearest metal structure, aluminum shard, and our rocket ship. But in addition to these two sections, there is a mysterious audio log that appears. In this log, there are 3 speakers, and all their names are unknown. The only way to differentiate them are by their colors, which are dark green, white, and red.
Mamma mia!
Alright, who's up first? I can go. Not you. Why not? Anyone else? Hammond, you're up. Screw that. What's wrong with me going first? I'm just as trained as anyone else. Got something to prove? Sure do. I'm the only one here who came from a shithole planet and couldn't rely on nepotism. Forget him, he's an idiot. It's people like him that said I'd never be here. And you proved them wrong. That's what pulled me in, remember? I know. There's nothing wrong with you going first. In principle. I'm just looking out for you. Ah, as your commander. Ha, you weren't the ones giving the commands last night.
No.
Guys, seriously, can you two not, while we're working, at least hop on a different communication channel? Look, a commander should view everyone equally. Don't worry, I'll be fine. To summarize, this is probably some audio log from some previous mission, and we learned that White is the commander of this mission, and White and Green like to get freaky. This log ends with Green going to do something on the mission, but we don't really know what. Back in the present, the blue man, remember we're still being interviewed by him, he asks us how our audio log system was. We say that it was empty, and we didn't have much use for it because we didn't speak out loud. It seems like we're purposely lying to him, but to us this may not have been a lie. More on this later. Back on the planet, we freak out and wonder who are these people and why are their audio logs here. We wonder if others have already been to this planet before us with the same mission, which is ridiculous. Something interesting about the audio logs is that we can fill in the names of the people in them once we learn them through their dialogue. Doing this will be important to find the secret ending and also to understand the whole plot. So from this first log, we learn that Red is named Hammond, which rhymes with almond. After log 1 appears, we have no time to scan metal because almost immediately after, log 2 appears. This log involves the people who are colored light blue, dark blue, pink, and a kind of swampy green. In this log, we find out that Swamp Green is afraid of diving alone on this mission and wants to dive in groups. The rest tell him that, "You stupid," and it's safer for everyone to dive alone because they don't really know what's in the ocean, and if there is some kind of danger, they will only need one death to confirm it, instead of everyone just dying in one go. Another important piece of information that we learn from this log is that there are 10 people on the boat, which consists of 9 divers and 1 commander. We also learned that Swamp Green's name is Bauer, which throughout the logs we're going to learn some names. I'm only going to say the important ones, but just know that almost everyone's name is revealed and you gotta kind of dig through and see whether the names are there. After log 2 comes log 3. And this one involves pink, orange, yellow, and white, who we saw in the first log, and he's the commander of the ship. In this log, they discuss their favorite quotes, and White's favorite quote is, "You know science when you become an astronaut, but it's only when you're in space that you live it," which is a beautiful quote. However, he can't seem to remember who told this to him. And strangely, the crew of the whole ship seems to have stopped at some random location, but doesn't remember why. But they count that everyone's on board, they didn't leave anyone behind, so they move on. It's about here that I got my first positive scan, and I dived in, but oops! I forgot about how the aluminum creates sterile zones, and I'm only supposed to dive in those sterile zones. Remember that from earlier? So I parked my boat beep beep into a more optimal lot and I dived in, and let me just say the way that the underwater environment is designed is just absolutely insane. It looks so scary, from the giant metal columns to the darkness around you. You can't see anything until it pops out straight in your face. And when you go to the C bid, you have to wander around in the darkness, find the aluminum shard, which is like really tiny. Don't worry, it was safe. There was no danger in the oceans. I will say though, when I went up and looking at the pillar from underwater and seeing the lightning hit, damn. Trigger warning, if you're scared of big things and you're scared of water, there's a lot of that in this game. Yeah. Anyways, I did get the aluminum shard, and apparently I only have 3 more to collect, which is great. After log 3 comes log 4, which involves the commander who's white, yellow, purple, pink, and red. Yellow, whose name is Lane, comes back from a successful dive with an aluminum shard. The crew congratulates him, and Yellow asks if they could hear him while he was underwater. Apparently, the rest of the crew couldn't hear him because of some electromagnetic interference. Which sounds dangerous if you're sending people to an unknown place and you can't hear them, but our commander brushes it off. Yellow proceeds to describe the ocean, saying it's dark, it's cloudy, and the floor is covered in salt, which lines up with what we see. We also find out that Hammond, who's red, is not a nice guy because he randomly asks Yellow why he had trouble bringing up such a little tiny shard of metal when Dark Blue steps up and explains the dangers of diving. If you have more weight, that's more effort and that's more oxygen, and that means you could die very easily. Red replies with, "Sounds like this is your millionth dive, Grandma," which is great. Dark Blue replies by saying they actually used to dive a lot with friends. And then Red says, "Oh, did you lose them in World War I?" Alright. Dark Blue and Pink then start talking about losing friends, being alone and lonely and sad. And the log ends. Along with the appearance of log 4, our mission journal also updates with more information about the planet. Apparently, the reaction between acid and metal on the planet creates pure hydrogen, which rises and collects in the atmosphere. So if the planet had enough oxygen, one tiny spark could basically blow it up. A few minutes later, log 5 arrives. And by the way, between logs, there's like a lot of gameplay, but it's really just me driving and diving around, so it's not really that interesting. So I'm just gonna describe the logs. Log 5 involves orange, light blue, white, yellow, purple, and dark blue, which is the whole squad basically. And this log is interesting because of a discrepancy between the amount of people that we should have and the amount of people that we actually have. In this log, Swamp Green is about to dive, and the commander says, "Don't worry about the oxygen because he brought 1 oxygen tank for each diver." Light Blue says, "But there are 9 tanks here," and commander says, "That's weird, I must have brought an extra 1. Which means that they think they have 8 divers, but in a previous log, I think it's log 2, they count 9 divers and 1 commander. So what happened to the missing diver? After log 5, we get a double log update, which is log 6 and 7. Log 6 involves purple, light blue, dark blue, yellow, and white. Here is where stuff really gets crazy. In this log, they forget why they stopped again, and they don't remember if someone dived or not. The commander is unsure whether he dived, when in log 2 they specify that the commander doesn't dive. So why would he think that he may have dived when he can't? Well, he thinks he did because he's wearing the same suit as everyone, and it's wet. But Light Blue points out that everyone's suits are wet because of the rain. Purple then says that he thinks he dived, and to prove it, he says that he remembers the ocean was dark, cloudy, and the floor was covered in salt. Which Dark Blue correctly points out that that's the same thing that Yellow said in one of the previous logs. Light Blue then asks Purple if he saw the purple arrows on the back of the boat, but Dark Blue tells him to forget it because Purple's brain will just fabricate more memories and we can't really know whether it's true or not. After log 6 is log 7, and in this log, they completely forget about the previous log's events. They literally don't mention anything, and the log just starts with the commander complimenting Orange on their dive. This log involves the commander, Hammond, which is the red guy, Orange, whose real name is Fox, and Light Blue. In this log, they make a very interesting discovery. First, understand that their aluminum scanner has the same accuracy as ours, which is 90%. Now, do you remember the short test that we took at the start of the game? In question 2, it demonstrated that even though a device's accuracy can be very high, when it predicted that you would die, you would actually be more likely to survive than die, because there were more false positive predictions of death than true positive predictions of death. Orange finds out that the same thing is happening to their device. I don't know where they got their data from, but Orange finds out that the actual accuracy of the device when it detects aluminum is not 90%, but 33%, or 1 out of 3. The crazy part is that earlier in the log, Orange, while referring to their scanner, says that every time it detected aluminum, it's been there. No one has returned without metal. They also mentioned that they already have 3 aluminum shards, which means that if they actually did find metal every time the scanner detected it, it would be a 1 out of 27 chance, which is suspiciously lucky. By this time, I had also gotten 3 shards, and the sun had completely set. The ocean was completely pitch dark, making it impossible to navigate without using my monitors, which, by the way, had been getting more glitched out as the more recent logs appeared, and is now almost unreadable. The temperature was also now at 10 degrees and dropping fast. The next log is log 8, and there are only 4 people left. There's Light Blue, who I'll just refer to as Young, Hammond, the Commander, and Fox. Look, Commander, we're sitting here again next to a megalith, and yet no one dove. What did the scan say? I can't remember, but it must have been negative, otherwise one of us 4 would have dived. Fox, I need to ask you something. Yes? You were the last to dive, right? Yes. Did you see the small purple arrows on the back of the boat when you were climbing back on? Yes. Damn! What's wrong? I made it up. There are no purple arrows. What's gotten into you, Yang? There are purple lights. I saw them. Go take a look, Fox. They're not there. Fine. They're right over. They're somewhere. Just give me a second to find them. We can't trust our memories. Fox was right. Something's wrong. Wait, are you implying that we are waiting here because someone is diving right now and we somehow forgotten they exist? You guys are overthinking this. Can we just get a move on? And leave them behind? Young, we're not leaving anyone behind. No one dived here. We all agree on this. Do you realize you're up next, Hammond? Yeah, and I'm gonna go down and prove to you that everything's fine. For some reason, when some of the crew dived into the water to get the aluminum shards, the rest of the crew on the boat forgot about them completely and just drove off, leaving them to die, which is absolutely horrific. But why are they only forgetting about specific people? We'll find the answer soon. Also, if you check the back of the boat after this log, the purple arrows that were definitely there before are now completely gone. After that log, I found and retrieved my last aluminum shard and had just gotten back onto the boat when a strange sliding sound came from the back of the boat. Upon checking the back, the medical storage door was now closed. Screw it, we gotta get back to the ship right now, but first, let's check our new audio log. Just like the last log, there are only 4 people left. Young, Fox, the Commander, and Hammond, unfortunately. See? I brought up metal, no problems, and you all still remember I exist, don't you? Explain that with your theory, Yang. You got lucky, you must have had a true positive signal. Right. How convenient. Doesn't matter cause it's your turn to dive. Okay, Yang? What are you doing? Is something wrong with your suit? Damn, there are holes in it. What? How? I don't know, it's disintegrating and my skin's burning. Change of plans. Fox, you're diving next instead of Yang, seeing as Hammond was last. Hammond, you take Yang to emergency and I'll steer the ship for Fox. Wait, what? You heard the commander. But the odds of— enough with the algebra already. If Yang found inconsistencies in your dive recount, can we believe you've even dived at all? It's exhausting dragging up the metal and now it's your turn, so get off your ass. Commander! You'll be fine, Fox. And Hammond, get Yang to medical now. Yang, hop on comm channel B. If something happens to me while I dive, tell my family I love them. I won't be telling your family anything, because it won't come to that. I promise you. Turns out Hammond's a nice guy. Back to the present, we are speeding back to our ship with something in the back of our boat. After a minute, we hear the storage door open again and something splashes into the ocean. Checking our storage area reveals nothing. They didn't take or leave anything behind. Strange. Soon after, log 10 appears and... oh boy! This log only involves Hammond and Young, while Hammond is fixing Young's suit. God, some of these holes are tiny. They are probably microscopic ones too. What do you think caused them? I'm not sure, but I'm more worried about our memory. Do we forget everyone who dives when there's an absence of metal? Why would aluminum be related to memory? Maybe it's not the absence of metal. Maybe it's the presence of what the metal sterilizes. Well, I've done my best of all the visible tears, but I'm worried it's not watertight. I don't think it's safe for you to get back in the water. So I'll have to sit here the rest of the mission? I can keep you company, if you like. I wouldn't mind. Thanks, but if I can't dive, then the only person the commander can send is you. Oh, yeah. Look, if you guys are right about this forgetting thing, since when are you a coward? Young, seriously, you're saying there's a chance I die and no one remembers me? So now you believe me. All I'm saying is the commander isn't here, the door is locked, and we're not on the main comm channel. No one can hear or see us, so if you wanna... No. What? Are you sure? Did I sound unsure about my answer? But if you forget me, then you forget all about it. Are you dense? Come on, you've probably already forgotten someone who has dived. What's more forgetting going to do? At least those people didn't. Maybe they did. Excuse me? Maybe they did, and you'd already have forgotten. Okay, that sounds bad. I'm not saying they did. Basically, Hammond SA's Young, and at the end he says, "No, I've thought this through. I know you're worried that there's no guarantee you'll forget because there's a chance I'll survive. That's why I won't. I'll throw myself overboard so you'll forget. And if you're wrong about forgetting altogether, that's okay too. I'm not worried about what happens afterwards. I'll still myself." Not a nice guy, not a nice guy. Apart from the messed up stuff that happens in this log, we do get a very important reveal. Remember when I said that the crew was suspiciously lucky because every time they detected metal, they actually found metal with their scanner? Well, turns out the crew wasn't suspiciously lucky because they didn't actually find metal 3 times in a row. It's just that when someone dives in and there isn't actually metal inside, something in the water causes the rest of the crew to forget about that person and they move on. Which means the crew has some sort of survivorship bias because they only remember the times where the scanner detected metal and they actually found metal. See how the 2 questions in the beginning tie into the whole story? About 2/3 of our way to the rocket, we get log 11, and only Hammond and the commander are left. Commander. Ah, good. You're back. Where are we going? You're passing all the megaliths. I'm currently reading all the audio logs and we're headed back to the ship. Do not dive. Do you hear me? Why? It's not safe. I'll explain everything when we get back. I'm happy with not diving. Are 4 shots enough though? They'll have to do. In any case, 4 shots all by yourself is impressive. Just give me a second. I need to read all these logs. I made it back to the ship with the temperature at 7 degrees. 2 more degrees and I would be...
Iceman.
Once we board the ship, we get audio log 12, which is the last one. Whoa, what are you doing? What does it look like? I'm leaving you behind. Have fun treading water. Commander, when you hop on a different comm channel, you're still recorded by the audio log, dumbass. What? You threw her off the ship so no one would remember what you did. Who is her? Wasn't it just us two on this mission? See? Even you don't remember. How EFU accepted you is beyond me. You're abandoning me for something I don't remember doing? You're still the same person with the same morals. In the right circumstances, you would do it again. You consciously chose to forget. Did you really think that would absolve you? You're a vile, pathetic coward. Who did I throw off? Why? The temperature is almost 5. If I were you, I'd find cover. What cover? Hey, you can't just leave me to die. You'll be dismissed by the EFU for doing that. If you can save me, you must. If everyone forgets you, does that include mission control? You really think the amnesia will work across astronomical distances? I'm willing to take the risk. It won't matter. This very conversation will be in the audio logs. They'll see it. Not if I wipe them. Hey, open the door. Commander! I know you can still hear me through the comm channel. You're gonna regret this, Commander. Because the most important thing to you is your reputation as an esteemed pilot. Everyone adores your perfect record, but no one more than you, and it's really obvious. You know what else is obvious? You've never had any hardship. You're complacent. You think you can do whatever you want without consequence. I've heard rumors that you pull some strings so that you can choose one of the members of the crew. I wouldn't be surprised if you've been sleeping with them during the transit of previous missions. Anything to say in response to that? No? You think your job is so easy, but you've just been lucky. And now the streak is too good to lose. You're scared that if anyone found out about this incident, that you left another astronaut to die, the career you built will be ruined. That's why you're wiping the logs, isn't it? How will this weigh on your conscience? You're too morally righteous to be immune to the guilt of having blood on your hands. That shameful feeling will fester. It will rot your thoughts from the inside. Do you really want that? The guilt of killing another person will never leave you. Did it leave you? Hooray! You know, that's actually a pretty good ending. Pretty happy ending if you ignore the fact that everyone died except the commander. After this final audio log, the only thing that we need to do is just leave the planet and we're done. Mission over. After we take off, this cutscene plays. Jesus. How could the people of the previous crew just forget people exist? The audio logs must be fake. But what a sad thought. If people died and no one could mourn them, no one would even know they lived. The thought of someone returning from a mission, thinking they did it alone, someone like me. Except, of course, I actually did this mission alone. Because I remember every moment of the journey. I steered, I scanned, I dived. It's all vivid and clear. I mean, some memories are undeniable. You know what your name is. You can't convince someone that they've remembered their name wrong. Everyone trusts their memory. As I desuit, I notice something on my finger. A ring. I'm not married. Why am I wearing a ring? I pull out my phone and search my contacts. The top result is wifey, followed by an astronaut emoji. What? I scroll through the messages. I've written I love you so many times, but I don't remember anything about loving anyone. I swipe quickly, scanning the messages, loading older and older ones, searching for a name. I can't find one. I don't remember writing these messages, but I sound happy. Maybe I did have a wife, but her name isn't anywhere in these texts. Is it pathetic that I can't even remember her name? I search among my contacts for a mother or father-in-law. I see the name Maria and it just feels right. Is that her mother? I activate emergency interstellar connection and press the phone to my ear. The audio quality is shit. Someone picks up. Hello? A quiet old voice says. Hi Maria, it's Max. Oh Max, it's so good to hear from you, the voice says after a minute. Light is fast, but it has a long way to travel. This is a strange question, but do you have a daughter? No, I don't have a daughter. Ah, that's a relief. It's just me and David. Why do I have your number then? I don't remember, Maria says. As I pause to think, a male voice nears the phone. Maria! Yes, honey? Who is this girl in all our photos? The male voice asks. I start to feel sick. This isn't real. No, I simply don't have a wife. What are you talking about? The phone says. Look, she's everywhere, the phone says. What the hell? Do we have a daughter? I don't remember. God, I don't. I hear sobbing. I need this phone to shut up and stop telling me lies and... What's going on, Max? The phone cries in my... Shut up! I hang up. That's enough. I don't have a wife. I'm okay. I'm fine because I never had a wife. I never loved anyone. I'm smiling because I never had a wife. I'm fine, I'm alone, and I'm happy. It's just me, drifting through space. This may have been obvious before, but I still think it's absolutely mind-blowing that whatever happened in the audio logs wasn't a separate mission. It was the exact same mission that we have been playing through the whole game. It's just that because we forgot about everyone else on the mission, in our recollection of it, we are alone and we did everything ourselves. We and the commander from the audio logs are the exact same person. We are the lone survivor from this mission. And once you understand that, everything in the whole game looks different now. For example, do you notice that every single successful dive that we have is followed by a successful dive in the audio logs? In fact, we actually never dived at all. As the commander, we can't even dive, we don't have the training for it. So the memories of us diving is actually the memories of the other people, but our brain used that to fill in the gaps in our memory. When we dive, we actually play false memories based on the recollections of Yellow's description of the ocean. Remember that? He said that it was dark, it was cloudy, the floor was full of salt, and that's exactly what the ocean looks like to us, nothing else. And also, do you notice in the beginning that our spaceship has 10 seats, even though we are the only ones on this mission? Isn't it weird to give a solo explorer a spaceship that's meant for 10 people? Loki, well, Game is False, who is the developer of this game, you're a genius, absolute mastermind, I think. Props to the chef. You've probably also realized that the green person from the first log is our wife, the commander's wife, which is our wife. And she was the first person to be forgotten, which is so sad. We tried to stop her from going, even though we didn't understand what was in the ocean, but eventually she decided to go first, and she was the first to be forgotten. But wait, there's a secret ending, although I will say it's not really that important to the story, but it's cool if you want to find it, if you manage to figure out everyone's names in the audio log, all except our wife, because she's gone, then we get to continue our interview with the blue man. He doesn't really say anything important, but is cool in clearing up certain things. For example, we find out that we ended up destroying the audio log with acid, and the blue man also mentions our call that we made to our mother-in-law. But the most interesting things come from our ability to look around the interview room. Looking to our left, we can see this image of a Y, which is a reference to the note in the ship at the beginning. Remember that? The Pythagorean Y, and how you have to be a goody two-shoes. But the more interesting image is this image of colored circles. Some are empty, some are filled in. Now this is actually a chronological summary of every dive in the audio log. The empty circles mean the dives were false positive dives, which means that there wasn't any aluminum, and the filled circles means that these were true positive dives, meaning there was aluminum in the ocean. Now that's a lot of information, and I hope I was able to digest this big story into something more understandable. But in summary, we were the commander of a mission to this new planet with 9 other people, and our mission was to recover aluminum from the oceans of this planet. However, there was something in the ocean, probably some kind of bacteria, that when you come in contact to it, everyone else in the world, in the universe, forgets about your existence. It deletes your existence completely. And because of the false positive paradox, when our scanner detected aluminum, most of the time there wasn't any aluminum there. And when people dived, we all forgot about them and we drove away, leaving them to die in the ocean. Because of that, everyone in the mission died except for us, and we are the only survivor and the only person in the world who knows what happened to these 9 individuals. Which is crazy, isn't it? Imagine there is something that can delete your existence forever. That's a cool concept. Love, love, love War Game is False. I think that they are my favorite developer, even though I don't think I can name any other developer at this moment. But that doesn't matter. Please play their games. Please play this game. You might like to play this other game called Ochre that they made. Ochre, I don't know how to pronounce it, but I might cover that game in the future because it's my favorite from War Game is False. This is the Plastic Fish channel. I make music, I make YouTube. Alright, bye guys.